I will now introduce our board of directors. We have Meg Ludlam, Jonathan Henderson, Tasha Woods. I put an extra syllable in there. Okay. Mike Rowley, and I am Jason White. We are also joined by Superintendent Ginger Haberer. Also, Kim Snyder, our Executive Director of Finance, HR, and Operations, is also joining us. And we also have Chloe Matson, one of our student reps here tonight. So thank you all for being here. And with that, we will move to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Thank you. Meg has moved that we approve the consent agenda and Jonathan has seconded. Board, any discussion? All right, then I will call a vote. All those in favor with an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then the consent agenda has been approved. Sorry, so Ginger, it looks like you're up next with our superintendent update.
Yes, so while Leslie's pulling that up, just want to thank our board members. Again, it's National School Board Recognition Month. So thank you, all of you, for your amazing leadership. And we will celebrate this important, I think it's an important recognition for our school district. We will celebrate this again next board meeting as well. So we do, there's just a little update on where we're at with Ida Nason Aronica. We are going to interview for the principal of Ida Nason on Friday. We posted it internally, and I am pulling up, let's see, you can go ahead and go to the next slide if you would, again, to the framework. You had it up there. Yeah, and then the next slide. There we go. So as you remember, this is Pacific Education Institute, and way back when we were first constructing and thinking and dreaming about what would Ida Nason be like for our students, we pulled a committee together that had parents and staff members, and there's a board member, 2 board members on that, and we said, what do we really want for the culture at Ida Nason Aronica? And the Pacific Education Institute framework really seemed to fit with that culture that we were wanting to establish. And I pulled out and I shared this with you in the study session too, that piece around really honoring our Native American culture and embedding that into the culture of IDAs is just really going to be important. So that is an important focus too in that interview process. So we're excited about that, and we'll let you know what the outcome of that. Next, I want to just, at every board member, I want to touch base around our Esser Funds. Our Esser Funds are the federal funds that are given to us. They're one-time, for one-time use. And again, the type of needs that are met through the Esser Funds include really taking a whole child approach, the mental health needs of our students, as well as learning needs, especially considering the pandemic, and how do we accelerate the learning for our students and really engage them in their learning, transitioning from being virtual to more in-person learning. And so you can see, and the one that I still need to add is the Hanover Research Equity Survey, because we'll be using Esser Funds for that as well. But I want to share these every time because this is also an opportunity for stakeholders to see what we have been spending the Esser Funds on, and certainly if we have any stakeholders that would like to, for us to consider spending these Esser Funds on a need that they've identified that would benefit our students across the district, then that's important for us to get that feedback. And so I'll be doing this at every board member meeting just to keep reminding us of all that. And board members, if you hear from community members or people who approach you, please pass that on to me as well, because you guys are important in collecting that information from the community. Okay, next slide. I shared with you during the study session, but we are going full steam ahead with our grading for equity class, and we have a nice diverse group of elementary teachers, high school principal, and a middle school principal and teacher there. And we've just had great conversations on how can really engage our students with their learning and use grades as a way to really give authentic feedback to students and parents about the students' learning and their mastery of the standards and what they're learning. So we will continue with that, and I'm excited that we're doing that book study together as a board too. So Leslie, if you want to go down 2 slides. So I just wanted to share with you that we are really formalizing this work too around standards-based grading and are really looking at how can we give really meaningful feedback to our parents and our students. And this was a slide that was shared during our district learning improvement team session. Jen and I met about this and it seemed like this would be a pretty good timeline. Leslie, is there any way to slide that over to the left a little bit more? So it's just kind of cut off where I kind of need people to see it. Maybe it's not. Basically, what it's showing is that for the next 2 years, we want to do professional development around how can we have a different way of giving our parents and our students feedback about their learning, with the goal of the 23-24 school year really being able to implement some form of mastery-based learning and feedback to students and parents. So we've given ourselves a couple of years to really do that PD, and along the way, we want to encourage principals and teachers to have those conversations and what are some of those practices that we're doing right now that could be barriers for our students, and how can we remove them and just really support our students in an equitable way as far as how they receive feedback about their learning. And just another couple quick updates. I did send an email out to all parents yesterday regarding the Department of Health guidelines, and we are partnering very closely with Kittitas Public Health. Just had a meeting with Dr. Larson at 4 right before the study session and got some more clarification from him. I'll be meeting with our director of nursing and a few other district administrators to get feedback from them on what the best way would be to implement these guidelines, and then also with our principals. And then we'll be putting something out district-wide. We're also waiting on the Department of Health. They've said that they were going to put out another one of those flow charts, which are really nice to say if it's this, it's this. And they're supposed to be putting that out this week. So I'm kind of waiting on that because that provides really nice clarification rather than trying to describe everything in words. And just a quick update with Ida and Cora Street. We had a great meeting with our parents at Lincoln on Wednesday. And one of the ideas that seemed to have a lot of energy to it was the idea of a walking school bus. Kind of hard to think about right now with all the snow and the cold temperatures, but there seemed to be a real positive response to having a group of students for fitness reasons, really, to get together and to walk down where there's a sidewalk there in Cora, to go down and meet their parents to get their ride. So we are going to just continue to work together around that. And I work real closely with Joanne and Dell and Neil Musser, our safety officer for our district, is also at IDA these next 2 weeks to just continue to help brainstorm on how we can make that process smoother and remove the cars from Cora like we have been directed to do with the city. So overall, I think we're just keep improving things, and I appreciate our partnership with the city and with our parents in just improving this process day by day. And that is my report.
Board, any questions for Ginger? All right, then board, that will take us to our next item, which is business. And first up, we have textbook adoption.
And Jen Kuntz, our Director of Teaching Learning, is joining us by Zoom, I believe. And she has, I think, several people from the English department there as well to present this information around a textbook adoption. Jen?
Hi, I'm unable to start my video. I don't know if that matters, but it just says disabled by host, but I'm okay without it, if that's okay with you guys. So we are here to present hopefully an adoption for Mouse, and we do have two English department members here, Brittany Weiler, so she'll need to be unmuted too, and Christine Rue, so she'll also need to be unmuted. And this wasn't a typical adoption because normally when we do a whole comprehensive content adoption, we go through a much more sort of lengthy and rigorous process where we do RFPs, we send them out, requests for proposals, and we have a big review. But because this novel is going to be part of core, meaning every student will read it, we're going through the adoption process. And it did go in front of the Instructional Materials Committee, and they all gave it an enthusiastic, unanimous thumbs up. So I will leave it to the English department to present Mouse.
So I suspect, hi, I'm Christine, and it's great to be here. Thank you for making the time to hear our proposal. I'm here to introduce Brittany Wiley, who is our lead 9th grade teacher, also our lead 9th grade, 10th grade team, to propose that Mouse be adopted into the curriculum of the 9th grade. We debated for some time whether it should be in the 9th grade or the 10th grade, and concluded for various reasons that Brittany will present that it should be adopted into the 9th grade. So Brittany, take it away. Thanks.
Thank you. There is a written rationale and a slideshow that I believe are linked through the board documents, but I'll just go ahead and speak my piece. So Mouse would be a really great addition to the 9th grade curriculum for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is that it's a genre that's not already in the 9th grade curriculum. And I think that we should have graphic novels, nonfiction, and memoir and biography in the 9th grade. We don't yet. And those are all genres that would really help us be able to make sure that our students are meeting the Common Core state standards with fidelity for nonfiction texts. And a graphic novel that is also nonfiction and also memoir and biography really covers a lot of bases there. Students will also read graphic novels in the 10th grade curriculum. And so already being introduced to a graphic novel in the 9th grade will really help kind of give a little bit of a building block for students as far as the format goes. This novel also fits in really well with topics that are taught throughout many other texts in the 9th grade curriculums that include issues of identity, history, social justice. And since this novel is about a survivor's tale from the perspective of a Jewish survivor of the Holocaust, it definitely ties into social justice issues there. And so it does kind of tie in with other novels that are taught in the 9th grade, like To Kill a Mockingbird, which focuses on history and social justice in the United States, as does A Raisin in the Sun. Basically, the novel is the story of a family struggle through the Holocaust, and it's told from the perspective of the author, Art Spiegelman. The author and illustrator of Mouse is interviewing his father, and so he does include sections of his own voice in memoir style, in which he talks about his relationship with his father and includes specific questions and answers in his conversation with his father. And it shows the effects of the Holocaust trauma on his father in the modern time that he's being interviewed. But then it also switches into the biography of his father's experience as a Jewish man in Poland who was sent to the ghettos and then to Auschwitz and then freed. That's the short version. I will encourage you to read the longer summary that is on the slideshow, but that's the basis of it. It does have quite a few themes that might be tricky for younger students, which is one of the reasons that we were discussing, should this be 9th or 10th? But this novel has been rated as appropriate for students 7th to 10th grade, so 9th grade is fine. It does cover topics about World War II and the Holocaust, survival, perseverance, faith, diversity, family, but also some darker topics surrounding racism, prejudice, and even suicide and murder. And so in the classroom, these sensitive topics should be dealt with in a mature fashion, teacher facilitated. So that's one reason why this is a whole class text and not something that should be left to a smaller literature circle group. It does need a lot of teacher structure and guidance toward an understanding of why this material is included. Students are encouraged to feel comfortable expressing views within the classroom. And of course, teachers are available if students are uncomfortable with this topic at any time. So there are quite a few benefits to this novel. Students will get to learn history from the perspective of a survivor. Yes, students do already study World War II and more broadly, the Holocaust in their world history class in 9th or 10th grade, whenever they take it. But language arts offer students the ability and the option to dig a little bit deeper and make that human connection instead of just dates and facts and broad details, which are important. But when people have the ability, the option, the opportunity to learn the truth of the matter, someone's truth, someone's perspective, their experience, their history, it's so important to get that human connection. So students will get to learn history from the perspective of a survivor. They'll be able to study biography and memoir technique, which I've already mentioned are not already included in our core 9th grade curriculum. So it'd be nice to have a common text for those genres. Students will get to study irony, symbolism, allegory, anthropomorphism, because the Nazis in the novel are represented by, they're drawn as cats, and the Jews are drawn as mice, and other Germans as pigs, and each nationality kind of has its own little animal representation. So students will get to talk about what that representation or symbolism means. And of course, we'll also look at the style of the storytelling and the theme. Students will examine the author's purpose. And as I said before, this is a great introduction to a graphic novel format, which, since this is not only a rich, detailed, gripping story, it's told through pictures. And the graphic novel format makes the story more accessible to our MLL students and to students who struggle with reading as well. Having the pictures and getting to see people's characters' expressions, I think will help with overall understanding. So it's a very well reviewed book, and I think that concludes what I've got to say, unless there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Such a thorough job on this topic. We'd love to field some questions if you have some as a board.
Board, the floor is open.
I just have a comment. I think it's great and exciting to be able to take a chance to have a chance to vote for a text that will expand the opportunity and experience and rigor for our high school students. So I support this.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I would just like to reiterate, excellent work. This is very exciting to see.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And board, this is an action item, correct?
Yes,
I move that we adopt the textbook Mouse.
I'll second that.
All right.
So I must say, when I was a kid and we weren't even allowed to read graphic, comic books, and had to go hide in the closet or something, things have changed. It's exciting.
yes.
All right. Tasha has moved that we approve this textbook, Mouse. And sorry, Meg, I am floundering today. Meg has seconded. Board, any discussion? Seeing that there's not, I will call a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then the board has unanimously approved this textbook. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are going to cherish this moment and move forward with a super curriculum at the 9th grade, which will be followed by an equally good curriculum at the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, board. Next up, we have the finance report. So Kim and Ginger.
Yes, so Kim Snyder's worked really hard to put together a complete financial report for you. Kim.
Tonight, I'll be going over the financial status of the district as of November 30th, 2021. You should have a packet in front of you that has a summary report, history of a fund balance chart, budget status report, and a trial balance report for all funds. We'll go over the general fund first. As of November 30th, 2021, the district has received 22.69% of the budgeted revenue and has spent 22.53% of the total budget. This percentage increases to 76.95% when we include encumbrances, which are scheduled expenditures like salaries and benefits. We don't do this for all expenditures. That's why it's only showing 76%. So we'll spend more than 76% this year. That's what it will show. These percentages are below the expected amount of 25%. This relates to 3 months of the expenditures out of the total 12 months for the year. The unassigned fund balance equates to a little over half of a month of operating expenditures, or 10.15% after we consider fund balance restrictions and assignments, which is the primary indicator of the district's financial condition. The percentage is above the board policy of 5%. However, if you compare to the end of 2021 school year, which was at 15.28%, you will see that the fund balance is decreasing. A few items that contribute to this decrease is the claiming of grant revenue that was not processed until December 2021, the extra expenses due to COVID, and salaries and benefits that are not covered by the current budgeted revenue sources. Are there any questions for the general fund? Capital project fund. The capital project fund is below the expected 25% budgeted revenue and expenditures as of November 30th, 2021. Revenues came in at 19.68% and expenditures came in around 14.94%. The fund balance is at around $10 million that consists mostly of remaining fund proceeds for the new elementary schools, state match, the tech levy funds come into the capital fund project, and assigned funds to support other capital projects. We are near the end of our bond proceeds. However, we will be receiving state match revenue to finish out the Lincoln project remodel project. Any questions on the capital fund? Debt service fund. The debt service fund revenues are above the expected 25% budgeted revenue, coming in at 41%, with the expenditures being below the expected 25% at 1%. The reason the revenues are above the expected budget is because bulk of our property taxes are collected in October. These revenues are then used to repay our debt service payment in December 2021 in the amount of about $7.8 million. I also want to point out that the high school bond was paid off in December of 2021. So yay. Any questions on the debt service fund? The ASB fund is below the expected 25% budget of revenue and expenditures as of November 30th, 2021. Revenue came in at 15.67% and expenditures came in around 7.78%. This may seem low, however, the ASB board has decided to budget for all possible fundraisers. And to do that, they budget both the revenue and the expenditures just in case that, so that they have budget capacity to be able to do what they want to do during the year. Any questions on the ASB fund? The private purpose trust fund is a fiduciary fund, so it's not a budgeted fund. And this trust fund is for our scholarships that people are really very graciously donate to us for our students. So I don't have a budget report on that, but the fund balance is at approximately $55,000. Any questions on that? The transportation vehicle fund is also below the expected 25% budget revenue and expenditures as of November 30th, 2021. Revenue came in at 1% and expenditures came in at 0%, which might seem odd, but when we budget for a capacity that if we need to plan for either buying buses this year or if unplanned, if we have to buy, because you never know, right? We, as of November, we do not plan to buy any new buses, so that's good news. But so that's why it's so low and that's why it looks like that. Are there any questions with that? Okay, so again, there is those other charts and other reports, and in your report, are there any questions on any of those reports?
I'm seeing most heads shaking their head no. I'm looking at Meg still, just to make sure she doesn't have anything. This report, I've been dying to see it, so thank you so much. This
Yep.
is really helpful. I know we've all been anxious about it, and for good reasons, but you've just shown us there's no reason to be anxious. You're perfectly able to get this in front of us, so thank you for all the hard work to get this to us. Just checking one last time, board, any questions? For Kim? All right. Thank you so much, Kim. Very helpful and very transparent. Okay, board, that takes us next to the attendance zone committee update.
Yes, so we had a great meeting and we have another one on Thursday. We looked at the demographic data and what we noticed is that for the drafted zone at IDA right now, it is has the most projected growth over the next, we asked Burke to give us data from the next 3 to 5 years. It had the most projected growth. So I went back to Edulog and met with them a couple of times this week. And we were able to just kind of adjust the boundary line between Valley View and these are all proposed boundary line. They're not finalized. The proposed draft line, boundary line, we tweaked it just a little bit to move like about 30 or 50, I think it was 30 to 50 kids out of IDA and into Valley View's zone, because we know that IDA is really, when you look at where that growth is and the projected growth over 3 to 5 years, it was significant in that area. And so we worked with Edulog today, and I was really pleased with how that came out with the tweak. It lowered the number of kids by about 20 kids compared to some of the other schools by making that tweak, which is good because over 3 to 5 years, there's going to be more growth. We also moved it so that it included just slightly less homes that are lower costs, and some of those shifted a little bit more into Valley View's zone, which was also what the demographics were showing, that we just needed to kind of make that a little bit more equitable between the 4 boundary zones. So I was really pleased with it, and they were going to be sharing that information. The representative from Edgelog will be there tomorrow night to kind of show us that adjustment and go through that with us. Andy has been amazing from that company. I also included the suggestions. We started working on what could be some criteria for a choice process. And we had the committee went into 2 different groups. So then I just kind of combined them for this document, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. But there are some non-negotiables with a choice process. If the committee decides I think they've decided that we need some kind of a choice process, and we're kind of trying to refine what would that look like. So some of the non-negotiables, just for transportation reasons, children would only be accepted at a school outside of their attendance zone if there's space in their grade level at that school, right? Parents or guardians have to provide their own transportation if they decide they want to choose to go to a different school. And we talked about how that's not really an equity issue because every school uses the same curriculum and teachers have the same type of training as far as pedagogy is concerned. So we didn't believe that that was a problem with equity as far as educational services. Not equal experiences, but equitable education. Principals would also use this constant criteria across the district. Everyone would agree to use the same criteria in the way they would look at filling any slots with the choice process. And then we still have to establish what that timeline would be. When would the choice process open up? And we're going to need more feedback from the committee tomorrow night around that. But potentially where we're at right now with the criteria, when I combine the 2 groups, is first would be looking at children of ESD staff members and allowing them to attend the school where their parent works, if there is room in that attendance zone. So really, children who live within that attendance zone automatically have a seat at that school. And then we just look to see where there's openings. And if there's an opening after the children who live in that school are put into the system to the enrollment, then this is where that choice process comes into play. Second would be siblings of students who are in the life skills or autism program, where we want siblings want to be able to stay together. The third was hardships that would be determined on a case-by-case basis, which could be, potentially some issues with daycare and, assigned school and the parent workplace, maybe not working out. But those would be determined on a case-by-case basis. And if we have some time with the committee, I want to try to delve into that a little bit more and really flesh out what could be some real specific types of considerations around hardships, just to be able to give principals a little bit more to go by on a case-by-case basis, how they would make those decisions. And then the fourth would be, it was really important, especially for one group, to consider incoming 5th grade students where there's room available to stay at the school that they were in, for the first 4 years and allowing them to stay. But again, that's only if there's room in that grade level. So that's where we landed. I was really impressed with our group. They were very involved, and I thought we did some really deep thinking around this. And then I think they came up with a pretty solid criteria, but we're going to revisit it again tomorrow. And that's my report. Meg, do you want to share anything else from that meeting?
Thank you. Board, any questions, clarifications for that? The only question I might have is, Ginger, do you have any sense of a potential timeline or maybe kind of where from here? It
Yes.
sounds like there's a lot of great accomplishments moving forward. So I'm just wondering what you anticipate.
The timeline, and I included it once in my soup update, but I'll do it again too. But it's good to keep reminding people about that, is that we will look at it tomorrow, and especially with the adjustment, get some more feedback. I'm going to ask the committee to come to consensus around it. We have one more meeting in January. At that meeting, we have to come to consensus and around both the choice process and the attendance zones, We are going to ask, I've asked Edulog to, once we run it by the committee, the tweaks that we did on the boundary line tomorrow, to get a really high resolution map that we could give, send out to parents. Because then the next step after the second meeting in January will be to do just a general survey with, and we'll need to talk about that in the committee too, what would we want to ask to get feedback from any parents who might want to, elementary parents who want to give feedback, as well as we'll do Zooms for each school parent group throughout February. And we'll do one in Spanish too, like we did for the tiered busing. So I anticipate that we will be bringing we may end up having to call a special meeting at the very end of February, potentially to ask the board for a recommendation. It just kind of depends on how the parent meetings go and how much feedback we get. And I imagine as a committee, we'll meet one more time in February before we actually bring that to the board. But we do need the board to officially adopt the boundaries no later than the end of February. If we have to push it to the first week in March, we can, but we can't go beyond that because the transportation department really needs the rest of that time to be able to work on the routes. The schools need time to do that. I met with Matt Siskey, who does the enrollment today, and there'll be a lot of having to put some of the where students are changing from one school to another. Those all have to be hand entered. We'll be able to get the lists of those students from Edulog, but there's a lot of labor that goes into the switch. And so we just want to be able to start early so that we can be well planned and well thought out and ready to go by the fall. Is that kind of what you're asking, Jason?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. That's perfect. That helps with the time frame. Excellent. Oh, go for it, Jonathan.
Yeah, was there any consensus about the transportation outside of the zones to like daycares? And because we do have a great after school program we've got at the schools. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. We are going to be asking Right at School. They've had a very successful program here and at Mount Stewart. And so we are going to be asking them once we kind of know what the boundaries are and the board makes a decision on that, we're going to give that to Right at School. They are awesome partners. They are willing to go into every school as long as we have the need and the number of students needed to be able to help them sustain their staff. So I think if there was a need at every school and parents really wanted that service, they'd be on board with helping us with that. So thank you for bringing that up, Jonathan.
Okay, board. So next up, that brings us to the Coaches Association contract. And if I remember correctly, Ginger, is this where we might go into executive session?
Yes, and I'm thinking we could do the coaches contract and then also finish up the superintendent evaluation and the contract. So Kim is going to go with me for that first part, and then, we can leave and you guys can talk about it and we can finish up all of that if we think we can. And if you guys decide you want to postpone one of them, we can as well after we meet.
That works. How much time do you think we should plan? And because we do have policies and a lot of reports after that, I really want to try to stick to this and not do a bunch of extensions. So what do you think?
What do you think, like 6:15? Or 2?
Wait, you said 7?
Yeah, I mean
30 minutes?
7:15.
7:15. Okay, so a half hour. Okay, perfect. I think that we can do that. So board, I think we will go into executive session.
Right.
We will return at 7:15, Leslie. All right, thank you. not all quite back. All right, I think we are all back. So going back, we did have the Coaches Association contract. I believe that is a action item, correct? So picking up where we left off on the agenda.
I move that we approve the Coaches Association contract.
I'll second.
All right, Jonathan has moved that we approve the Coaches Association contract and Tasha has seconded. Board, any discussion? I'd just like to say thank you to the district admin and to the coaches. What great example of a contract moving forward. So, all right, then with that, anything else, I will call a vote. All those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
I think we determined I don't have to abstain from this.
Correct. Thank you, Meg, for that clarification. All right, so that's a unanimous vote. Coaches Association contract is approved. Next up, we have the last action item under business, which is the superintendent evaluation and contract extension.
I move that we extend the superintendent contract. I have to read the whole thing from June of 2024 to June of 2025.
Yeah, I think board that. Yep. Okay, thank you, Tasha.
I second.
All right. And just for clarification, Leslie, you got her, how she worded that, correct? That extension for June of 2024 to June of 2025. Okay. There's a motion and a second. Tasha motion, Jonathan seconded, right? Okay. Board, any discussion? Then I will call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Then again, that is a unanimous vote. Superintendent's contract has been extended for that additional year.
Thank you. It'll be a real privilege to keep serving and all the way through to 2025.
Likewise, thank you. All right, board, we will move on to policy. We have quite a few policies. I had proposed that we, before we start with the policies, that we move policy 3241, student discipline, to our, I think we have to vote on that. Yeah, study session. So board, if you want, I could make, what's that? Oh, and emotional climate, Meg, is that correct? Pardon?
No, I did research that and that one's fine.
Okay,
But 3241 does need to be accompanied by the retiring of 3200, I think it is.
the older one, yeah. Thank you for that clarification. So, yeah, so, and I'm just asking that we take a little bit more time and get some of our answers. I know I have more questions, so.
Oh, yeah, 3200 is the right number. Yeah, so I would ask that we move both, that we
Okay.
move it to the study session and include
Okay,
3200
okay,
retirement.
all right. So moved. Are we okay? I think we'll make this as an official motion, if that's okay. Or do we? I don't think we have to do this officially, right? We can just move this, correct?
Yeah.
That's what my understanding was. Okay. Leslie, any question on that? Okay, so with that, now we'll move to the first one, policy 1815, ethical code for school directors.
Well, this one and also 1825, which is coming right up, are new policies that seem like a good idea to adopt. They are not required policies, but they more clearly specify what conduct is expected of school directors and what happens if they violate those standards. It was interesting to reread them this morning and realize that there's only, I mean, I was looking through a bunch of policies and there's only one that actually allows a school director to be terminated, and that's for conflict of interest, for violating conflict of interest standards. But I think it's a good idea to have these policies as well, even though they don't get that far, and perhaps probably shouldn't.
Thank you, Meg.
I move that we accept policy 1815.
I second.
All right, Tasha has moved that we accept policy 1815, and Mike has seconded. Any discussion? All right, then we will call a vote. All those in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed with a nay? Any abstentions? Again, this policy 1815 is approved. Next was policy 1822, training and professional development for board members.
And this one just adds to the policy the new legally required training that we have in equity. And it's a legally required policy, and I recommend that we approve it.
Yes, thank you for that clarification, Meg. Oh. So this policy is in line, Meg, feel free to, if I don't say this right, this is really in line with the new requirement that all board members have to have a required training. So that this way our policy is in line with that. Okay.
I move that we approve policy 1822, training and professional development for board members.
I'll second since my mic's on.
All right, Jonathan has approved. We approve policy 1822. Meg has seconded. Board, any discussion? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then policy 1822 is approved. Next policy 1825, addressing school director violations.
I already addressed this policy, though I am reminded that when I was reading through these policies this morning, we actually are not supposed to adopt policies, present and adopt them. We are supposed to have a first and second reading, but we'll deal with that next time. We're supposed to, as we adopt policies that we're not, the first time we see them, we're supposed to say, it's in the best interest of the district to do this. So in the best interest of the district, I recommend that we approve policy 1825, addressing school director violations.
Thank you, Meg.
I second.
All right, Meg has moved that we approve policy 1825. Jonathan has seconded. Board, any discussion? I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, policy 1825 is approved. Next policy, policy 3112, social emotional climate.
So I recommend adoption of this policy. It basically, as you read through it, you probably see it solidifies the values that we have as a board to really taking a whole child approach, I think, with our students, and the importance of involving all of our stakeholders in maintaining and nurturing a positive social emotional school and classroom, and really involving all of our stakeholders to support that. And then also just that importance of always having that continuous cycle of improvement, doing a lot of planning, evaluation of how we're going to implement it, but also progress monitoring and changing the process as we go through, especially, when we're thinking about social emotional learning. So right now we have, curriculum across the board. We have second step, middle school all the way through elementary, and Character Strong is the curriculum that we use at the high school to help support social emotional learning. And we have the common implementation of community circles across the district. So those are some practical things. And so part of that then is circling back through, for example, and then saying, well, how do we know about the effectiveness of that? And that's a little bit more difficult, with social emotional. So we're just now starting to have those conversations. And I know Kelly's working with counselors. He's talked about this cycle that he's implementing with counselors right now. And we're doing that, with all of our systems.
Well, I move that it is in the best interest of the district to go ahead and adopt this policy on first reading. So I move that we approve policy 3112 on social emotional climate.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Meg has moved that we approve policy 3112. Tasha has seconded. Board, any discussion? I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Policy 3112 has been approved. Next policy is policy 6225, use of electronic signature.
Yes, so we really believe that this is. Oh. Voice. Okay. So we believe that electronic signatures will be important to do. We don't have a specific company right now. And I see that Kelly's on. I'm gonna ask him to jump in here. He led the efforts in researching this, but we do believe Leslie shared a great new company that's emerged called Parent Square that we're really looking at more closely. Might be a nice way for communication across our district and connecting our parents, as well as they have this ability with electronic signatures. But Kelly, do you want to talk about that just a little bit more?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, we've been looking into electronic signatures now for about a year, maybe year and a half. We've investigated several service providers, and we did just run across one that I think looks like probably the best educational program out there. It is actually a communication software that aligns all of our buildings, our district and our buildings in public announcements, but it also provides a electronic signature platform within that service, and it at a considerably cheaper price than other providers, very popular providers out there. So I apologize. I noticed that the document that has been attached here is the unprocessed document. Basically, it's highlighted. So we definitely are going to need to go in and fill in the blanks there. When we look at what types of documents, I think it's asking us to outline which documents we would go and use electronic transactions with. So I could speak generally to that I would say business transactions, purchase services or contracts within the business office, HR, employment contracts, special education contracts would be probably the main place we'd go. And then also we would want to use this with our buildings for easy access for principals to be able to obtain signatures in an electronic manner. So yeah, outside of not knowing or not contracting specifically which platform we'll use, this resolution basically is just authorizing the board to allow us to use this format in those types of agreements or contracts.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you for that clarification too. I think the board had assumed where it said name of district that would be updated.
Yeah.
As well as the service providers, which again, we would recommend, we would know that would come from you and Ginger as far as how those would be listed.
Yeah, and I think this one, because we don't have a definite company yet to do that, I think probably a recommendation might be a good one, would be a first reading on this, and then we can bring it back to you with more specific information. But our main objective in this was really just to get it in front of you to let you know that we really think a policy like this is important. And we wanted to be able to fill all of that in at the same time and so that it's really something official. But it was listed in the legal policy news because they just did some updates on this. And I'm excited. I think it'll be really helpful to have electronic signatures, and we'll cut down on the paperwork and human hours that go into some of the processing of paperwork. So, and appreciate Kelly's efforts in researching it. And thank you, Leslie, for putting the parent square in front of us. She heard about it at one of her public relations workshops. And I think it could be a real solution for us. So we're going to follow up with that. So this one will come back to you guys.
Great. So board, as long as we don't take an action on this, then this will just, we'll let admin bring this back to us. So,
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's definitely time to move to electronic signatures for the district. But also, when that comes back, could you see what the surrounding school districts are using?
With what? I'm sorry.
What the surrounding school districts are using as far as their signature platforms, and if that's working for them? I think it might be worth a phone call.
Yeah, actually, this one in Parent Square, ESD 105 is joining together. Yakima just adopted this. And there's a discount, I think, in getting it too, because ESD 105 is backing it. So that always gives you more confidence rather than it's this kind of company that you just heard about, right? So I appreciate your asking that question.
all right, thank you for that. Board, if we're ready, then we'll go ahead and move to the last policy, policy 6970, naming schools, facilities, and teams, and the use of school mascots, images, or logos.
Yes, and we recommend adopting this. I think it supports the equity policy that we adopted earlier and shows our commitment to equity. Certainly the naming of Ida Nason and Veronica, I think, really fits that first sentence. She was definitely very prominent locally and was very a leader in education, and especially with their Native American tribe, as well as being very active in the school system at the time as well. So I'm pleased that I think she meets that requirement, and certainly we would support the rest of that. And we are very involved, as you remember, with the Yakima Nation, and Anthony Aronica is actually the legal consultant for the Yakima Nation, and reached out and let them know that we were doing this, and we never received any opposition to that, and the whole Aronica family was very supportive of it. So I feel confident that we're meeting the requirements.
All right, board, this is an action item.
Move, since I've got this language at hand, that is in the best interest of the district for us to adopt this policy 6970 on first reading, which is, yeah, mainly an expansion to mascots, images, and so forth.
I second.
All right, Meg has moved that we adopt 6970 policy, and Jonathan has seconded. Board, any discussion? Okay, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, policy 6970 is approved. Next up, that takes us to board reports. I did speak with Chloe before she left. She did not have a report tonight, but it was great to see her. Next up, we have teaching and learning. Tasha, do you have a report?
I do not have a report tonight.
Thank you, Tasha. Meg, a legislative report.
So the legislative session started on Monday, and there were some hearings already today and tomorrow on education bills that we might be interested in, but I don't believe we're testifying, but things are moving. And let's see. Yeah, okay, well, I guess this sort of leads into my other topic, because as a legislative representative for the school district, I have told the board and superintendent tonight that I will be resigning from the school board in mid-March, which is before the legislative session ends. And I've given notice in hopes that a replacement can be found for me, both as a board member and as a legislative representative. I think the legislative session this year is not going to accomplish much that we want it to, so. But there are opportunities for the for students in particular to participate, and Ginger and I have invited our students to attend the legislative, whatever it is later this month. There's a something in day on the hill, and I'm forgetting what the something is. But anyway, there's a I think inspiring conference on Sunday afternoon, and then the next day there are opportunities to meet with legislators, all of this by Zoom. And since our student reps are not here tonight, but we have another meeting before the sign-up deadline, and I hope we will be able to get them to attend and perhaps meet with legislators. They can even meet with the governor if they want to.
That's cool.
I personally am not going to be available, but they can do it themselves, and I would really hope they will participate.
And actually, Chloe did mention before she left that she wants to go on Sunday. So that she wants to attend the
good.
conference on Sunday. So
Good,
I'll ask Leslie to sign her up, and she'll be able to do that.
great.
I'd also mention, I did have a chance to meet with all three legislators recently with the Chamber of Commerce, hosted a time at their building, and had a chance to also eat lunch with them, which was awesome. But House Bill 1590 and House Bill is really important because it talks about keeping the enrollment, stabilizing the funding for that and not taking that away.
Yeah.
The funding is sitting there in the account, and because it was originally designed to be given to school districts, and then enrollment dropped. So we're asking the legislators just to pass that money on that was already set aside for schools and not pull it away and use it for something else. I did go in, and you can sign in to say you're pro. So I did that for each of these. And then House Bill 1664 is a prototypical model. They're looking at that again, which I'm excited to see about how potentially they could add nurses and school psychologists and counselors and social workers into that. I brought both of those up to our legislators, and they were, Alex Ibarra, Judy Warnick, and Tom Dent were all there, and they all seemed like they would be really supportive of that and be able to speak positively about that going back. And then the other one is, there's actually two House bills that talk about the stabilization of enrollment funds. So I can send this along to you if you want to go in and register for pro. It's pretty easy. You just click on it and go in and do it. So I just got this the other day.
Yeah,
But it's
there's a
good.
hearing
Thank
on
you,
the-
Meg.
There's a hearing on the prototypical model for nurses tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing that both WASA and WASA are suggesting this year is that administrators other than the superintendent be involved in this, because it's too much to fall on the superintendent and the ledge rep. Or the testimony in particular, which is not my strong suit anyway.
All right, thank you, Meg. Again, thank you for your service on the board. All right. That would leave me up for my update. I have a very short update. So I know that Ginger had kind of let you all know, had a great meeting with at IDA with the Lincoln parents. It's always confusing when we talk about it that way. Tasha and I were both there. What a wonderful, wonderful group of really smart and creative, open-minded people to come up with solutions. And so a lot of great operational ideas were presented. And so thank you, administration, for moving forward with some of those pieces. So board, just so you know, Heidi and I are meeting with the city tomorrow afternoon. And so we hope that we'll be getting an update with what we are. We have followed exactly what the city has asked us to do. And so we're hoping that this update will be productive. And like I said, I've heard very clearly that it was really about queuing on Quora has been the issue. And we have been actively as a district pursuing that to figure that out. So, yeah, so again, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, Ginger, to that, but that was, I just wanted to make sure the board, you heard that directly, and we'll keep you informed. So. All right, then that leads us to public comment. So Leslie, I think we've got a few people left, maybe on nobody here in person, but we've got maybe a couple people on Zoom that might want to speak. So if you want to get us set up just in case, we have someone who does. Individuals wishing to be heard tonight by the board will add their names to the document in Zoom chat box, or individuals may be recognized within Zoom by using the icon or emoji to show they are raising their hand. Once the chair calls on an individual, they will identify themselves by stating their name and address for the record. Individuals will proceed to make comments within the 3-minute time limit. In order to provide equal opportunity for comments, an individual's microphone will be turned off at the 3-minute time limit. The chair may interrupt or terminate an individual's statement when it is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. The board as a whole has the final decision in determining the appropriateness of such rulings. In accordance to Open Meetings Act 4230, agendas and topics must be set in advance of the meeting. Board members will not respond to public comment during the meeting. Additionally, comments may be submitted to the board at board@esd401.org. Leslie, are we ready? All right, so those of you that are on Zoom, if you are here for a public comment, we just need to hear from you right now. So please raise your hand, emoji, let us know. We'll give you about 10 seconds to do that. We don't want to miss you if you're out there. All right, Leslie, I don't think we have anybody. So with that, I'm going to close public comment. Board, do we have any proposed items for future consideration? See anybody? No? Okay. Jonathan, no? Okay. You sure?
It was just about where's February, it was about where we're meeting in the future. We should just.
Yeah, thank you for that question.
So I just read an email actually from Joanna about that. So if we move to Ida, it'd be pretty difficult to meet on the stage because the art teacher is using the stage as a classroom. So it'd be a similar setup to here. And Mike's team has agreed that they could have that happen by, I think February 9th, that second week in February. That's our first meeting in February is what we're planning on, having the first meeting at Ida and have the rest of them at Ida.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have a final executive session tonight?
Yes, we do.
We do. Okay, so just before we switch to that, I just want to ask the board, I'm going to do something we normally don't do, but I'm just going to ask, is there any clarifications and next steps that we need to address before I'm going to jump to that one? Because then when we come back from executive session, the only thing on the agenda is for us to sign and to adjourn. So that way anyone who is in Zoom can do that. Oh, and board calendar. So we'll do board calendar as well. So just to double check. So any clarifications and next steps, board? No. Is there anything for board calendar? All right. So that would mean the only thing we have left is signing the official documents and adjournment after this executive session. So with that, we will, we do still need to give a time.
Yes. I would say 8:05.
So 20 minutes. 8:05 is when we will and we
Negotiations.
Yep, negotiations. Perfect. All right, so 8:05 we will return. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just getting my computer back up. It is completely closed out. Okay. So signing of a document. So now all the board is here. Just make sure, don't leave until we check in with Leslie to sign. And then otherwise I will. I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. All right, Tasha moved that we adjourn. Meg has seconded. We are adjourned. All right.
Did you guys notice the beautiful ESD runner that